6 months after my grandmother died, I sat in a lawyer's office I had never been to before and listened to a woman I had never met tell me that everything my parents had sold was already legally mine, that it had been mine for 4 years, that my grandmother had made absolutely certain of it before she lost the ability to sign her own name. My parents didn't know about that office. They didn't know about that lawyer. They didn't know that my grandmother had spent the last year of her clarity doing quietly, methodically, and legally what she had always done with everything that mattered to her, making sure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. It isn't just about jewelry. It isn't just about money. It's about a woman who loved one granddaughter in secret and made that love permanent before anyone could take it apart. The beginning of this story starts in a kitchen that always smelled like cardamom, and it ends in that lawyer's office. And the distance between those two places is the whole shape of my life. My grandmother's name was Vivian. She came to this country with 2 suitcases and a husband who died young, and she built everything she had from a standing start. A cleaning business that eventually became 3 cleaning businesses, a house she paid off herself, and a jewelry box, dark lacquered wood, a small brass clasp, lined in faded blue velvet, that she kept on the dresser in her bedroom and never let anyone touch without permission. The jewelry wasn't extravagant. It wasn't diamonds and platinum. It was gold, real gold, the kind people bought before they trusted banks. A chain she wore every Sunday, a pair of small hoop earrings she put on for every occasion that mattered, a ring with a single garnet stone that she said her own mother had worn, and a bracelet, heavy, solid, engraved on the inside with a date I won't share because it belonged to her, that she had bought herself the year her business turned its first real profit. She bought it because she said every woman deserved at least one thing she had earned alone. I spent more time in my grandmother's house than my sister did. That was simply a fact. My sister Paige was 7 years older than me, and by the time I was old enough to really be present with Vivian, Paige had already moved into the part of her life where she had better things to do. She came to holiday dinners. She called occasionally. She accepted the money my grandmother gave her for birthdays with warmth and without curiosity about where it came from. I was the one who came on ordinary Saturdays. I was the one who sat at her kitchen table while she cooked and listened to stories about her husband, her businesses, her early years. I was the one who learned how to make her cardamom tea exactly the way she liked it. 2 pods, not 3, steeped for 4 minutes, never 5. I was the one who drove her to her medical appointments when her eyes got too bad for driving. I was the one who helped her sort through 40 years of paperwork in her back bedroom over a summer that got progressively harder as her hands started shaking more. My grandmother told me once, while we were going through that back bedroom, that I reminded her of herself. Not because of anything dramatic, just because I noticed things, because I paid attention, because I kept records. She said it like it was a compliment. I only understood much later that it was also a warning, that she had noticed I would need to. My parents loved me. I believe that. But they had a particular kind of love for Paige. The public kind. The kind you could show off. Paige was pretty in a way people commented on. Paige had married well. A man with a good job and strong opinions who made my father laugh. Paige had given them grandchildren before I'd even finished my degree. I was the one they described, when they had to describe me, as the quiet one. The one who keeps to herself. The one who never really found her footing. I was 31 years old, working as a bookkeeper for a small environmental consultancy, living in a rented apartment 30 minutes from the house I grew up in. And in my parents' accounting of the family, I was simply there. Present, accounted for, unremarkable. My grandmother never saw me that way. She said I noticed things, that I paid attention, that I kept records. In the last year of her life, Vivian's mind began to cloud.
Not all at once. In patches. Good days and difficult days. Her doctor was honest about the trajectory. Her family, meaning my parents primarily, began to talk about her the way people talk about a problem that is becoming more expensive to manage. She died on a Thursday in November. She went to sleep and didn't wake up, which was the death she had asked for, and, I believe, chose on some level.
What happened in the weeks that followed is the part of this story I need you to understand. Because the betrayal didn't announce itself. It arrived the way betrayals often do, dressed in practicality, wrapped in logistics, spoken in the language of taking care of things. My mother called me 10 days after the funeral. She said they were going through Vivian's house and getting it ready to list. My parents had power of attorney and were handling the estate, and that they had found the jewelry box and were taking it for safekeeping. I asked where they were keeping it. She said, at home, for now. I said I understood. I did not say, Grandma told me that jewelry was mine. I had learned, over 31 years, that saying things in my family rarely changed outcomes. It just started arguments that I was then blamed for starting. 4 months after the funeral, Paige announced a significant family trip, somewhere expensive, the kind that requires a travel agent and a passport renewal. My mother mentioned it with warm enthusiasm. I asked how they were paying for it. My mother paused a half second too long before saying Paige and her husband had it handled. 3 weeks later, I went to visit my parents for Sunday dinner. My mother was wearing Vivian's gold chain. I noticed it the way I notice everything, quietly and completely. I said nothing. I watched my mother reach up and touch it once while she talked, that unconscious gesture of a person who has recently acquired something and is still getting used to the weight of it. I watched my father not look at me. After dinner, I went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub for a moment and breathed. Still waters run deep. I had heard my grandmother say it once about herself, years before. I had never understood it as a personal directive until that night. I went home. I did not call. I did not send a message. I opened the drawer in my desk where I kept a particular folder, the one I had been building for 2 years, not as a plan, but as a habit. A habit my grandmother had, in fact, encouraged. Keep everything, she told me once. Not because you'll need it, just so you have it. The folder held, among other things, a card from a lawyer named Constance Okafor, someone I had been referred to by a colleague when I helped her untangle a small estate matter the year before. I had never needed to call her. That night, I called her office and left a voicemail. The meeting happened on a Tuesday. I sat across from Constance in a quiet office and told her what I knew. That my grandmother had told me the jewelry was mine, that my parents had power of attorney and had recently begun to liquidate some of the estate's smaller assets. Constance asked whether my grandmother had ever worked with a lawyer of her own, someone separate from the family. I said there was one name, a man named Jeffrey, who I had met exactly once, at my grandmother's house 3 years before she died. He had come on a Saturday afternoon when I happened to be there. My grandmother had introduced him as an old friend. He had stayed less than an hour. I had made tea. Constance asked if I remembered his last name. I did. I had a habit of writing names down. What Constance found when she made that call is the reason I ask you to stay with me. My grandmother had retained Jeffrey Abrams as her personal attorney 4 years before she died, completely separate from any family arrangement. In that time, she had signed a document that transferred personal property, specifically described as the contents of a lacquered jewelry box kept in her bedroom, to me by name, with my full legal name and date of birth, via a notarized gift deed. She had done this while she still had full legal capacity, a full year before any clouds, any patches, any difficult days. The gift deed had been notarized, witnessed by 2 people unconnected to our family, and filed. It was not part of her will. It was not subject to probate. It did not pass through my parents' hands. It was already mine, had been mine for 4 years.
She had also left a sealed letter with Jeffrey Abrams to be given to me in the event that anyone attempted to dispute or remove the property covered by the deed. Jeffrey Abrams drove to Constance's office and delivered the letter in person. He was a man in his late 70s, quiet and unhurried, and he shook my hand when we met and said that Vivian had spoken of me often and that he was glad the right time had come.
The letter was 2 pages, handwritten, in my grandmother's clear cursive from before the tremor had taken it. I won't read it to you. Some things belong only to the people they were written for. But I will tell you that she had anticipated exactly what happened. Not because she had evidence, because she knew her family, because she had watched them for decades, because she had loved her daughter, my mother, and loved her for real, with full eyes. She had written, "I am not doing this because I am angry. I am doing this because I know you, and I know you will not speak first, so I am speaking for you. Keep this. Use it when you need it." I sat in that office and I did not collapse. I let the tears come. Not a breakdown, just a quiet overflow. And I let them stop when they were ready to stop. I was not grieving the jewelry. I was grieving the grandmother who had loved me so carefully that she had built a legal structure around it. I was grieving the years I had spent being quiet in rooms where my worth was being discussed without me. And I was grieving the gap between the family I had and the family she had tried to be. Then I wiped my eyes and I asked Constance what came next. What came next was a letter. Not a dramatic confrontation, not a scene. A single legal letter, sent by Constance on my behalf to my parents and to the estate, citing the gift deed by filing number, requesting an accounting of all personal property from my grandmother's home that had been removed or sold since her death, and notifying them that any property covered by the deed that could not be returned in original condition would be subject to monetary claim for fair market value. My parents received that letter on a Wednesday. My mother called me that night. I did not answer. I did not call back. On the 3rd day, my mother sent a message. It said, "We need to talk about this." It said, "There has been a misunderstanding." It said, "We didn't know." I want to stay with the phrase, "we didn't know," for a moment, because it was doing a great deal of work. It was being asked to carry the gold chain my mother had worn to Sunday dinner. It was being asked to carry the earrings and the garnet ring and the bracelet engraved with the date that had belonged to no one alive except my grandmother. The accounting Constance received revealed that 4 of the 7 pieces in the jewelry box had been sold. 3 remained. The proceeds from the sold pieces had been used, in part, to contribute to the cost of Paige's holiday. The 4 pieces sold had a combined assessed value of $4,300. That is not a fortune, but it is my grandmother's bracelet. It is the thing she bought herself the year she proved something to herself. That number does not cover what that bracelet meant. Constance filed a formal monetary claim for the appraised value of the 4 missing pieces. She also filed a notice that any remaining estate distribution would be subject to review pending resolution of the claim. My parents hired a lawyer. Their lawyer reviewed the gift deed and the notarization and the filing date and the letter from Jeffrey Abrams, and then had a private conversation with my parents that I was not present for. After that conversation, their position changed. The claim was settled, in full, within 6 weeks. No court date, no family meeting, no confrontation in anyone's living room. Paige called me once. I did not pick up. She left a voicemail that began with, "I had no idea, and I want you to know and I listened to it once and then deleted it without reaching the end. Not out of anger, out of the same feeling you get when you've read the last page of a book and someone wants to tell you how it ends. I already knew. My parents sent a formal apology through Constance's office. It was typed. It was 3 sentences. I filed it in the folder. Jeffrey Abrams sent me a card after the settlement, handwritten. It said he was glad the matter had resolved as Vivian had hoped it would.
He said she had told him once that she wasn't worried about me, that I had her temperament, that I would know when to be still and when to move.
The 3 remaining pieces were returned to me in a small box. The chain, the hoop earrings, one other piece I won't name. I put them in a cedar box I keep on my own dresser now. Not lacquered black, just plain cedar, the kind that keeps things from tarnishing. Some mornings I open it, not to wear anything, just to look. There is a smell to old gold, faint and warm, like something that has been kept close to a body for years. The first time I opened that box after the pieces came back, I was standing in my apartment on a Tuesday morning with nowhere particular to be, and I smelled cardamom, or the memory of it, or the idea of it, the way certain things travel with us after they're gone. She was not there, but the care she had taken was still there. That is what the box holds. Not jewelry. Evidence that I was known. I have not spoken to my parents since the settlement. Not as punishment. Not as a statement. Simply because I have nothing to say that would be useful, and I have spent enough of my life speaking into rooms that weren't listening. Some silences are not walls. They are decisions. The thing they called a weakness, my quietness, my tendency to stay in the background, my willingness to keep records of things nobody else thought to keep, was the architecture of everything that protected me. My grandmother recognized it because she had it herself. The patience to document without a plan, the habit of keeping, the ability to stay still in a room and let it reveal itself. They called me the quiet one, the one who never really found her footing. What they never understood was that the footing was always there. My grandmother had poured the concrete 4 years before I needed to stand on it. I don't take satisfaction in what followed. I take note of it. Information has a way of reaching the people it needs to reach without anyone sending a press release. My sister and I are strangers now, in the way that people who were never fully close become strangers when the obligation to pretend dissolves. I don't wish her harm. I don't wish her anything. Life moved forward, as it does. What did not move forward was the ease my parents once had in certain circles. In a small way, not a public way, just the quiet way that truth travels, certain people now know what happened. She was not there to see it, but the care she had taken was still there. That is what the box holds. Not jewelry. Evidence that I was known. And that is enough. That is everything.